Well, to start with, shamanism is such a wide perspective of different teachings. So it's quite specific. The way I worked was quite specific to South America, where I spent a lot of time. But shamanism in general is healing. So it's the knowledge of how to do this, firstly, with aspects of yourself and your immediate community, and then how to apply that knowledge in a wider perspective. So I worked with South American shamans.
I think you were in northern Peru.
Yeah, northern Peru and on the border to Brazil. And I worked in that specific culture, which is wonderful because it's a mixture of native South American culture with the influence of the West, because of course South America has been colonized for hundreds of years now, so the European perspective of the world is also present in the native culture. So basically, I didn't know anything because I'm not from South America, but I had a strong connection to the people and nature, to the forest, to the Amazon forest, and just the feeling of the place spoke deeply to my heart. I realized that I needed to communicate my depth to the people, and not just I'm here to save the rainforest or I'm here to help you. I had to see the deeper perspective of why am I here in the middle of the rainforest. It's not even the place I was born or grew up in. What brought me here? And I understood, and also it was explained to me that I'm there in the rainforests. I feel like I'm there today to help come to some sort of understanding about myself rather than try to save the people. And the understanding was, how can I bring that native knowledge that I could see and I could feel into the perspective of the Western world. So I had to experience that within myself, to let go of the social ideas and to the projections that I had, and to the belief systems and the addictions to fear. That is one big thing that Western people, don't understand. But we live in a very fear-based culture, where we are conflicting with the laws of nature all the time to support the idea of who we are within that little context of the Western culture. Yes, I think nature is something that we, all love and feel at home and relate to in a way that is universal. And I think that's a beautiful thing because it takes us beyond our differences. When anyone looks at a sunset or looks at the beautiful ocean or mountains, we feel a connection to the world that is very difficult to, say I'm this or I'm that. It's just universal. So I feel that is something that children love. They love nature, and it's a pity in the Western world that we are so far removed from the natural laws of nature and how to do things in harmony with nature. So for me, my teaching is to bring that important realm into spirituality, because it is part of spirituality. When you let go of the way the mind controls perspectives and the way the mind likes to see things, then we become more natural. We become ourselves. And when we become more natural, we are much more able to understand how nature is a teacher. Every aspect of nature brings some sort of quality that can be part of who you are. And this is, for me, a very, very important part of the teaching, and especially in children. This is the reason why I have the love for nature, because from a very early age I was shown in a real sense the value of nature and how to go back to nature when things were disharmonious within me. So this is always what I did. If there was a conflict in the family or if there was something that created disharmony around me, I would always go to nature, sit under a tree, or I'd just lie in the garden or do something where that harmony in nature created a more balanced perspective about the whole thing for me. Just being present to nature. And my grandmother was definitely, the main influence to allow me to understand that not only do you have to relax in nature and come back to harmony with yourself and nature, but also that you can be active in utilizing the natural forces in nature to heal and to change aspects that we believe that we can only do by ourselves. And this is what I was taught in the Amazon forest. I was taught how to use natural remedies to cleanse the body and how to let go of certain blocks in the body. For example, fear that somehow pollutes the liver, or perhaps, toxins that hold you so tightly together that you feel that you're caged in through the toxins of pain or suffering or whatever it is. And that there are natural remedies that you can use that help to release this. Physical remedies, but also energetic remedies. And we know this, if you're feeling stressed, all you have to do is walk somewhere where there is more oxygen or ions in the air, and your whole brain has the possibility to relax and be more focused and more productive. So nature is very useful on many levels. So I understand your grandmother, because I believe everything has a signature, which is in essence a movement of energy, which is sound in the end. And you can replicate every aspect of nature through creating a sound, such as, for example, in India, they have the sound of Om, which I believe to be the beginning of creation, or the manifestation of creation. Every aspect of nature has that power, so you can utilize those signatures to connect to the essence of plants, or the essence of a mountain, or the stars, and you can bring that quality into healing. So if you are sick, for example, with, say, heart disease, like you were saying with your grandmother, you can connect to that signature that allows the heart to find the power of healing. That's a very important question, because it takes us beyond the mundaneness of, I'm sick and I want to get better. Why are you sick? What is causing the disharmony? And most people don't want to know why. They just want to get better and carry on doing whatever they are doing that created perhaps the illness in the first place. So I would say that if someone is ready to go to that depth and change their life, transform their life, of course there are natural remedies out there that can help. And this, for example, the Native Americans have used herbs such as sage, which is considered very sacred. And in India also there are herbs that people don't know really what they are. The soma, for example, that is written in the Vedas, that are sacred, that I believe help to transform consciousness, which is the core of my work really in the end. How to change the mind that's created that picture of disharmony that in the end has influenced the physical body to create disease. Because everything begins in the mind. That, every thought that you have creates some sort of disharmony, which has to go somewhere. And of course it goes to the physical body, or to the way you feel, or to the way you relate to yourself mentally. So I believe that meditation in essence is the way forward, and that is how to understand the mind and how to understand to let go of those perspectives that are creating disharmony. And actually it's quite a joyous thing. Okay, so the first step would be to understand that you have fear, to be conscious. Okay, I have whatever personality situations that create who I am, but I also have something that I don't really like inside of me, and that is fear. Which usually it becomes unconscious or subconscious. It's hidden behind what is obvious. When we focus on that, it comes up to the surface. It shows itself. And one thing which is very common is that we say, oh, we don't want that. So we try to find other things, enlightenment or freedom or whatever idea that people have, that moves us away from the nasty feelings. The experience. So I would say, when you open up and say, okay, I want to embrace fear from that perspective of freedom, I don't want to run away from it, then you are becoming more conscious. That is the first step to meditation, consciousness. And when you are conscious that you have to work with fear, you're also conscious of the aspects of fear that need to be let go of. So for example, if you're afraid of expressing your love to someone, which, you know, obviously is very much part of fear, you know, okay, I'm not going to fall into the old habit of playing a game or projecting or hiding behind a mask. I can show my love more clearly because I can see what fear is and I can see how it controls me. And I don't want to be controlled by that subconscious force anymore. I want to be real. I want to be myself. When you do that, nature, this is why nature is important for me, and also the universal aspect of nature, the stars, the galaxies, are naturally aligned to be more real. And when you are getting more into that space of realness, then nature supports your journey and you feel that you're not alone, and the movement from the unconscious, primitive mind of survival transcends itself and becomes much more, I don't know really what the word is, but much more enlightened, you know, this is the word that people use, but, you know, more free to explore itself in a real sense and show love. And then you can begin to be more like a spontaneous child, you know, and show who you are to the person. And usually we realize that what we're afraid of, aspects of ourselves, not the love that we think will hurt us or whatever reasons we had to justify that fear.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we begin to see things as they really are, that love is actually a beautiful feeling, and the more we show to the world, the more we show to our partner or children, the more that reflects back not just from the family or from your partner, but also from the universe. There is a synchronicity that happens which supports your journey. Everything becomes more beautiful, more real. And this is what I found to be in South America. People are so real that in those dangerous, very difficult places, and the Amazon forest is not, you know, paradise as people think. You know, it's real. You know, it has many aspects to it. There is a support that only happens to native people because they have let go of those fears, and I feel that in our Western culture today, we have to let go of those fears to transform that culture of aggression, the culture of war, the culture where we're constantly looking at what is important and best for us and ignoring, you know, the common good and the beauty that can be shared with everyone in this world. This is why we're here. So I think, you know, in the end, I don't try to put my perspective onto people's, you know, belief systems or religious ideals.
Yeah.
I think freedom, in the end, is something that you know from your heart. Kabir and Rumi, the famous poets, speak about this. When your heart is able to just celebrate being alive and seeing the value in everything in that moment of aliveness. Now, different people will, you know, measure that sense of freedom according to where they're at. You know, for some people, freedom may mean, you know, just to be free of disease, because that is physical disease. You have cancer, and you know, that's what you want to be free of.
Yeah.
Maybe when you're free of the disease, you realize, wow, that was a journey. Maybe I want to be free of the suffering that my mind is creating. But not everyone understands that perspective until they go through certain experiences in life, and this is why we're here on earth, you know, to develop and to change our perspective. And I feel today, more than ever, more and more people are ready to transform the core, the essence, which is the Maya. I call it the Maya, meaning the illusion that the mind creates. And I think freedom then is obvious. You know, it's like Buddha experience. You know, if you're attached to the negative perspectives of the mind, fear, worry, stress, then you're not free. And if you let all those aspects go, then there is a freedom that can't be spoken about, because as soon as you start speaking about that freedom, you're placing some perspective onto that freedom that limits the freedom, because it's a human perspective. And this is why, for example, in Sufism and in the mystical traditions of the Middle East, people don't like to put names to the divine. You know, they reflect aspects of the divine as important, but they don't actually say the divine is this, and that is the ultimate. Because in the end, when you are in the space of freedom, then you don't need to, say, I'm here, look, this is where I'm at, because, then you are in the middle of something that is so beyond understanding, you can only express it in your attributes, like Mother Teresa or Gandhi, where your actions speak louder than your words. And for me, freedom goes beyond words. This is why I wrote the book. But actually, you're saving the rainforest, or saving whatever the planet, saving whatever your passion is, by being.
Yeah.
And that is the mystery of the alchemical process. It's not out there. You don't need anything specific that you have to do. I mean, you do need to do things. I'm not saying, you just sit down and do nothing. But it must come from a different perspective of, I need to go to that place and do this to save the rainforest. So I realized that my journey to many places, not just the rainforest, to the Zen Buddhist monastery and to the many parts of India and around the world where I met wise people, in the end was just an invitation to reflect back in this moment the reality that I was needing to understand. So, your question is how, to change that perspective. If you want to save the rainforest, how can you do it from the perspective of freedom?
Yes.
I think, that is impossible to answer, because when you are free, everything that you do then channels that universal, beautiful love that is nature, and you become so powerful, not from an ego sense, but you become so powerful in your actions that you influence much more than is possible from the perspective where you want to conflict with certain situations so that you can change what is happening around you. So this is why Mother Teresa, for example, all she did was some very simple, beautiful actions with people. She didn't sit back and do nothing. Her karma yoga, so to speak, or her selfless service was real. But it came from a perspective that is so much more powerful. It's a free perspective. And to channel that beauty and love, which then allows for miracles to happen. And I think we need a miracle in this world today, that where we're facing so many interesting challenges. And the miracle doesn't have to come from one person or one perspective. I think it's a group consciousness where, as humanity, we realize that together, from that perspective where we're able to channel love, where we're able to channel what is in essence so beautiful and so good, everything changes. We create a quantum leap into a perspective that we can't even see from where we're at in this moment.
Sure.
And this happens, to everyone. You can imagine, when you're a teenager and you see the world in one way, and everything is so intense and powerful, and you see things in that teenage way, which is beautiful. And then look at how life changes, as you have experiences and you adapt and change to whatever life is teaching you. See, everything changes, everything is impermanent. And in the end, we have that experience, but people want to hold on to one perspective. And if we are just free enough to let go of the old and invite the new, because the first step is consciousness. Come and sit in a space where the chaotic mind and the chaotic situation that you're seeing on TV or reading on the news just takes a back seat somewhere, or just you let it go for a little while and observe what it's like to sink into a different reality. You cannot explain, you cannot force people to see this. You can only allow that experience to happen. So this is why, for me, meditation is so essential. It's so simple. It is simply a technique of focus, where you focus on something that allows the mind not to drift off here and there and everywhere into all the worries, stresses, addictions that the mind likes to go to control it and to stop it. And just see that there is something beyond that struggle that can allow for freedom. Now, I can't put that in words. That's why it's an experience. This is why I say you need to sit and meditate for 120 days. You know, it's not enough for 20 minutes one day to experiment to see if it works or not. Because the deeper you go, it's like a dream. You know, the deeper you go into the dream, the more sense it makes. And when you sit and meditate, you find quietness, you find stillness inside of yourself. And behind that stillness, in that stillness, there are some perspectives that you can explore. And, you know, for some people, they're lucky. You know, it happens immediately. They just say, wow, I understand. For other people, it takes a little while. You know, like cigarette smoking.
Yeah.
You know, for some people, they can stop smoking cigarettes in 2 days. Others, there is a bit more of a struggle. Doesn't mean that ones who take a bit longer, you know, are more backward or, you know, somehow less developed or less conscious. Just means they have more to learn, and it's more exciting. So the journey, if continue it for 120 days, becomes more interesting, because you begin to see much more than just, I need to stop smoking. And this meditation is something that people have practiced throughout the ages. And there is no time in the world today, because, you know, I see, even coming here to the studios, you know, people traveling the underground and on the train, you know, they're so fast. Exactly. And on many levels, you know, I hear that, you know, peace, for example, you know, in the old days it was all about traveling and speaking and dialoguing with one another, but now the media can play a role that is amazing, you know, if conscious. You know, not all media is, you know, aware to do that, and can help change situations before they develop into conflict. And, you know, that is my deeper intention today. It's, you know, how to bring more harmony to the world, to the maximum amount of people, without, you know, having to do so many things as I used to do in the past, like you say, travel every week to one place and then to another place. And I believe that, you know, there is an energy that is supporting that transformation. People are looking today and searching more actively for something that they know but don't quite understand. And I think the media is the way forward. So I focus much more on the internet. I still work with people, of course, but also traveling, you know, it's difficult because, you know, I don't want to just support people for a few moments, you know, one day workshop or a satsang, you know, somewhere. I want to support people in a way that is more continuous. And it's impossible for me to be in all those places at the same time on this physical level. So, you know, it's important then to utilize technology. So this is what I'm doing, and I think many people are doing this, you know, consciously, and it's a wonderful thing. Like the work that you're doing, you know, you're bringing a different perspective to the world, you know, and to people watching from wherever, and how to practice that in their daily lives. You know, I say that just because, you know, some people may be watching say, oh, it's easy for you, Tony, or it's easy for all those people who have the time to meditate or have the time and knowledge to practice certain techniques to get to a more free space. But actually, suffering, when embraced, you know, from a conscious perspective, and we're all conscious, you know, we just don't know, when engaged and worked with from that perspective, I feel invites you to be more human. You know, and this is what I like about people like Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama, that they're so human, it shows, you know, and you don't have to call them enlightened, because just what they are, you know, shows that they're free, you know. And I think without suffering, you know, it's difficult to see how to be human, you know, and this is perhaps why we're here, you know, to embrace things from such a beautiful perspective, no matter what the situation is. It makes us unique, you know. Conscious human beings are amazingly powerful, and I think, you know, everyone can be conscious simply by embracing everything that they are, not hiding, not running away or trying to live up to some sort of perspective that is alien to who you are, but just being yourself. And that is coming back to the heart. It wasn't quite my own suffering. I grew up in Egypt and in places where suffering through poverty was much more obvious. And I asked myself, you know, why do people have to suffer in this way? You know, why? I began to question everything, really. What is the meaning of life? Why is there this pain and suffering? You know, for me, life was quite easy. you know, because I had everything. But I wasn't happy with just, you know, the selfish satisfaction of needs. I wanted to understand how to make a difference to those people that were right next to me, you know, and I think that opened my perspective in a way that just remained forever as a core part of me, you know, not just to focus on me, but how to make a difference in the world. And I didn't know, you know, I was a child, but it's part of my personality, you know, to understand how to alleviate suffering. And I think, like the Dalai Lama, when you see it and you're open to it and you understand it, then you understand that, you know, it's not enough to buy a new car or to do whatever to feel happy. You know, there is much more to life. The breath is the closest reflection to the state of the physical body. You know, if you're stressed, you breathe quickly. If you're relaxed or dreaming or in a state of consciousness where you're happy, you know, your breath reflects that. So if you're conscious and if you're able to work with the breath, to relax the breath to a state of harmony, then the body takes that as the real reference rather than the pollution or the noise or the stresses outside. And that becomes like a mantra, you know, that you focus on all the time whenever you feel there is disharmony in the body. So, you know, one thing that I teach, and I hope people can teach this at school and, you know, in hospitals and in places where, you know, people are dealing with much more physical stress than is normal. You know, just breathe in, take a deep breath in, the diaphragm, you know, relax the diaphragm, and breathe out, and take a moment just to sense what it's like to let go of the physical stress. Notice how your shoulders relax.
So you breathe in.
Deep breath, deep breath.
Deep breath.
Relaxing the diaphragm, and then breathe out. And when you breathe out, notice how your whole body just relaxes. And that state of relaxation is essential for the quality of health that the body needs to be free. You know, you can't say, oh yes, I'm free, and then you have your body, you know, all tight and stressed because of whatever is around. You know, you have to be able to reflect that in a more conscious way. And I believe the breath to be essential. This is why in yoga there is pranayama, which is the science of breath. But there is no need to go so deeply into breathing. It's a simple matter of letting go of stresses. When you do that, I think your body relaxes and comes back to a state which is much more joyous. You know, it's much more easy to feel happiness when you're relaxed than when you're stressed. I can interact with my body in a way that is not just reflecting the stress. I can show the world that I'm happy. You know, like your partner. You know, if your body is relaxed, you can embrace them with that joy and relaxed body. And they feel it, and you feel the connection to the physical realm, because we are manifested here on this physical realm. We have to ground ourselves here. And I feel the breath is the first step to remember the body. And I think when you remember the body several times, oh yeah, I've got my hands, oh yeah, I've got my feet, and I'm walking on the ground, you know, it becomes more an automatic response to how you experience the world. You slowly ground yourself in a way that is not normal in the West. This is why in Zen Buddhism, part of the meditations are called walking meditations, where you listen to a rhythm. That can be the rhythm of the mantra that you're chanting, or an external rhythm, and you walk in a way where consciousness is manifested through your action. You know, your physical action, the way you touch the earth, the way you show your body to the world. And I think this is very important. This is, you know, a matter of practice, and the more practice, the easier it gets. So I never say, you know, this is the way. You know, you have to do this, and you have to do it like this. Everyone is unique. Every human being has a personality, has a perspective, has such a wonderful way of learning. There is, you shouldn't push it aside and then say, no, this is not right, and this is the right way to do things. But for me, meditation, which is in a much wider perspective, just relating to the harmony of life rather than the distractions of the mind, can be put into practice, into real practice. So perhaps saying to yourself, every 3 hours I'll take 2 minutes just to breathe and to look at the world from a different perspective. You know, you have to remind, as you said in the beginning, you know, if you forget, you have to have reminders. And the reminder can be you just saying to yourself, I need discipline, so this means I need to remind myself in the morning and the evening to sit in meditation. But then that sitting becomes the meditation that carries on in, you know, your daily experience and even in your sleep. You know, if you meditate for 20 minutes before falling asleep, you know, the mantra that you repeat or the focus on some beautiful aspect such as poetry or a beautiful quality of the heart is carried deeper into your sleep. And also in the morning, if you wake up and you meditate, then you start the day with a different perspective, which, you know, goes beyond just the 20 minutes of meditation that you have as your practice. So, you know, this is what I like to do. I like to bring spirituality into life. The way you relate to people, the way you say hello to someone that you don't know, you know, your acts of kindness to everyone, just your relationship to everything becomes a spiritual work. So if you're a Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Buddhist, you can continue your practice. But you know, the quality, the heart, needs to be very much the most important aspect of that practice. And for me, you know, I find it very useful to repeat beautiful mantras, sacred sounds. You know, if you're a Hindu, you can practice, for example, the sound of Om. I usually say to people, why not try Hu, which is H-U.
It's a Sufi sound.
It's a Sufi sound, a Middle Eastern sound. But it can be anything. It could be light, which in Aramaic is Nur, you know.
Nur?
Nur, you know, and you can say, you know, light, 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 so that every situation that the mind thinks of that is worrying or limiting or dark or negative, you know, has another force that you can reference to, which is light, or Om, which is the creation of life. Or if you're Christian, you can, you know, chant something from the Christian tradition. If you're Muslim, you can chant something from the Muslim tradition. It's up to each person. In the end, it is like Kabir says, you know, there are many ways, but you know, there is only one real way, and that is the way of the heart. And I think if you are truly real and you are, you know, coming back to your heart, then it doesn't matter what the practice is. You know, it's your action that counts.